My name is Jennifer Laviolette. I live in Grandview, Manitoba. I have a 15-year-old daughter named Rachel and a common law partner named Michael. It became pretty clear we were going to access respite at an early age with Rachel. It was pretty much obvious, I think, from birth. We had a very traumatic birth with Rachel. Basically, Rachel's disability is attributed to being too long in labor, and Rachel was deprived of oxygen. They weren't very optimistic that Rachel would be able to walk or talk. We weren't offered respite. We had no supports in place, no backup, no other family. And even you find that your social network outside of you changes, especially when people don't know what it's like to have a kid with disabilities. They tend to shy away. So we decided to move closer to the area that we live in now because my parents are there. It came very clear to me that we were going to need help. The struggles of living in a rural area, having to travel for services, having to have limited access to things as well.
The lack of qualified respite workers in rural areas shows how the current recruitment strategy has failed families living in these regions. Families shouldn't have to choose between the comfort of their hometowns and access to qualified respite services.
So for me, it became very apparent that if we were going to live in the safety of a rural community, I had to be close to family. I needed my family for support. Whenever Rachel would get sick, my parents were right there, and we needed that. I always was aware of respite services, but the problem was we could never find a respite worker. So as it stood in our area, respite workers were hard to come across. And when you live in a small community, everybody knows everybody. But then we did find a really good candidate 2 years after we learned about respite. So that was just before the pandemic. So things were going great. They would do trips to the park, Riding Mountain National Park together. They baked cookies. They did flower arranging workshops, all kinds of activities that really gave Rachel that break and support, but also gave her social skills and just the confidence that she needed as a young person. It was a little bit of an undertaking for me as her parent because it was self-managed. It almost feels like you're the employer now. And so in a lot of senses, I could see why people deterred from using respite in a rural community. Because if you're already a working family and you're feeling overwhelmed, the last thing you need is another task, right, of managing an employee. Every year, respite contracts have to be renewed. And I had heard from other families, like, you'll probably go through a few respite workers because of this. But I thought, no, it's okay. We all know each other. They were right. We did lose our respite worker. Now you're asking a lot for someone to watch a child with special needs. There could be medical concerns, there could be behavioral concerns, there's safety concerns. So this is not a $15 an hour job. This is more of a $20 an hour job to start off at. So people see the level of responsibility and what's required of them, and they see the wage and they say, no, thank you. And you can understand why.
If we hope to recruit and retain skilled respite workers, adequate training and a living wage must be provided.
So you don't want to be changing respite workers all the time because a child then asks, well, what's wrong with me? Why won't they stay? They don't understand government budget cuts or program flaws or anything like that. So by us now being able to have my mother, Rachel's grandmother, be the respite worker, they get to spend that quality time, and Rachel will never have that absence of a bond in her life again. We could change respite to have programming dollars attached to it rather than just care dollars. If we could access programming costs as well, this would give us a wonderful opportunity to put Rachel in different kinds of programming. She could do physical activity. Rachel could have the costs covered of maybe going and swimming or participating in a special Olympic sport. we do make several trips as a family into Winnipeg to access things like theaters or exhibits or museums. And Rachel just soaks that culture up. She loves it. She loves the Science Museum, being able to do the hands-on learning activities that you don't really have access to in rural Manitoba. So it'd be nice to have those kinds of programming dollars available to families who have children that would greatly benefit from it. Because there is a lack of options, and you either have to get very creative and create them yourself, or you have to travel for them.
Every child, including children living with disabilities, has the right to participate in a full and enriched life.
We know that there's a very good likelihood that Rachel, as an adult, will be living with us because there is a lack of supports in place for her as an adult. We're not sure if she's reached the level where she'll be comfortable being independent on her own and what that will look like. With the changes too coming forward in disability EIA, that is a major concern of anxiety for me. How's that going to look for her? Is that going to enable her, or is that going to prohibit her? Respite is a great tool when it is managed properly and funded properly. So what I mean by that is creating that flexibility for that family and child based on their needs. Not just having a program where everybody has to fit the mold. I think we're learning now over time that everybody's unique, everybody's needs are different. So now we got to make that program reflect that. That's the only way we're truly going to be able to support families and children with disabilities. It's a wonderful program. It just needs to be developed better.